So it's been about a week and a half since we got back from our trip, and I'm still doing laundry. I'm still doing laundry. There was so much laundry. 5 people in a small transit van with all the bedding and all of the clothing because it's winter and everything is cold is definitely not the easiest thing. So I'm still doing laundry. This is a Nick Mason special. I think he signed the bottom of this one. Yeah, he signed the bottom. You can see it. I've had this one for a long time. It's done me well. It's done me well. Like that. We purchased a transit van probably about 3 months ago. We've done a little test camping in it every once in a while where we would just go to a local place and just kind of feel out how we would sleep, what the best packing method was, but it wasn't until recently that we actually built up a bed into it, and that made all the difference. There's not a lot of information out there on how to make it suitable, make a camper suitable for a family of 5 where you have to drive and everyone has to have a seat to drive in with a seat belt, and then everybody has to have a place to sleep. We reinforced the roof with some metal bars and we hung hammocks. Fix your hair again. Okay. What was your favorite thing about sleeping in the transit?
Falling asleep.
Falling asleep.
Quit it.
Did you actually like sleeping in the hammocks?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, just not that first night.
What are you doing with your hair?
I don't know.
Why didn't you like the first night? What was wrong with the first night?
Because I kept getting up and I had growing pains.
Oh, growing pains. That's not good. I didn't know that. Well, the rest of the nights were okay though?
Mm-hmm.
Were you comfortable in your hammock?
Yep.
That's good. There are some things that we will change, some things that we'll keep, and some things that we are going to add, which I'm really excited for the adding of the things. One of the things that we did not put in was kitchen. So there's no indoor cooking method other than just our little backpacking camping stove that we would use every once in a while. We have a big camping grill that we use to cook whenever we camp. So we brought that, but it was underneath of the bed, the platform bed. So basically you had to get out of the van in order to cook. It proved to be more difficult, and we realized how much we actually did want to cook in the van. There was one morning whenever it was in the teens, it was very cold and very windy and nobody wanted to get out of the van in order to cook. So right then and there we decided, okay, we're gonna figure out how to put a kitchen in the van, still travel 5 people, still sleep 5 people, and make it so that we are not just super tight and cramped in there. So the first day we drove about 6 hours or so from Indiana to the bottom of Missouri. Basically, we just wanted to get in as many hours as we could so that the next day wasn't as long, but we didn't have a ton of time on the first day. So we just took off right after lunch, and we drove all the way down to the bottom of Missouri. And then we slept at a Cracker Barrel parking lot. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can sleep in a Cracker Barrel parking lot for free. Basically, if you're able to stealth camp or if you're able to boondock, then you can stay in a Cracker Barrel parking lot, which we actually felt really, really safe doing. So we did that. We have a little buddy heater, and I was so thankful for that little heater because it got cold in the van. Even though we insulated it, it definitely got chilly that first night. But we hopped up right the next morning after driving and headed out for the rest of the day. The way down, the second day, was really cool because we took most of Route 66, and I had never driven on Route 66 before. The kids had never driven on Route 66 before. And it was really neat just to talk to the kids about the history of Route 66 and the importance of Route 66 during the Dust Bowl. If you don't know about that, you should look it up and research it. It was something I did not know about until this trip. We got to Guadalupe National Park at about 9 or 10 in the evening. What I love about our van is that we don't have to set anything up really. We unstrap the bungee cords from the hammocks and the kids climb in, and Nick and I climb into the back, and that's pretty much it. That's all we have to do. We are tent campers. We're reformed tent campers. I still like tent camping, I think. Tent camping is awesome, except it's a lot of setup. And I feel like even with a travel trailer, it's still a lot of setup. You have to park it just right. You have to unhook. You have to still like level everything out. Literally with this, we just popped in the back, slept, and we're ready for the next day, which is really cool. We had a little toilet situation in the very back. Basically it's a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet lid on it and bags in it. But I had this eco gel stuff that you dump in there. It's not a gel. I have this eco powder that you put in, and then the waste turns to and then the pee turns to like Jello. It looks like Jello whenever it congeals or whatever it's called. That actually worked out really well because it really did not smell. It was a deodorizer, which was super awesome. No turbo tumblers upstairs.
I know, I wasn't driving it.
Okay, what do you need?
I have these and then have tuna crackers.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, shut my door.
How much water do I actually put in there?
About 2 cups.
So it's gonna have a 2 on it?
Yep.
So, okay.
Okay.
How do you make a video of like trips that we've done?
Well, I take all of the videos that I took on our trip and I put them all together. Okay, bye.
Should I lock this?
Nope. So the second day that we were at Guadalupe National Park, we climbed up to Guadalupe Peak, which was really cool for the kids to experience. They thought it was the best that they were climbing the tallest peak in Texas. It was about 8.5-ish, a little less than 8.5 miles round trip, which the kids have done before. They've done 14 miles before in a day, and so we felt like they were capable of doing it. The only thing I was a little hesitant about was that it was 3,000 feet of gain. How's it going?
Windy, cold, and
Yeah. Welcome to the mountains. "3,000 feet of gain over the course of 4-ish miles is not that bad, but the first mile you gain about 1,000. So that climb it's pretty intense. There's quite a few switchbacks, which makes it easier, but that I was a little nervous about. And then the very last mile, getting to the summit, was a little bit difficult. You really just had to watch your step for the most part. It wasn't that intense. I think the kids have done a more intense climb before, which was great. They did amazing. They did amazing. So after we climbed up to the very peak, there was a little box where they could write their names in a book, and it showed that we had been to the very top and we had summited, and they thought that that was amazing. It was cold. It was very cold. It was about 25, 30 degrees, but the wind was probably whipping at about 50 miles an hour. There was a time where we were going through a pass where basically it just drops off on either side. It's in between two of the mountains, and the wind came through, and immediately we all just hit the ground because the wind was so strong that we felt like it was gonna knock us over and knock us off the pass. So that was exciting. So after we made the 4-mile trip up, we had to make the 4-mile trip down. The 4-mile trip down was a little bit more eventful. Sage fell and he hit his head. Luckily, I carry a first aid kit with us, and I was able to patch it up before so that we could get back and actually take a good look at it and clean it out. So the next day we drove to McKittrick Canyon. McKittrick Canyon was probably my favorite. The rocks, the trees, the cactus, the colors, it snowed. I loved the first snow of the year, and I missed it back home because we were in Texas, and I thought, oh, we're in Texas, I won't experience the snow, but I did get to experience the snow. But just being in the canyon where the mountains are coming up all around you and you are in the very bottom part, I don't know, there's just something magical about being that low and close to the ground and experiencing that nature that really just, it brings you to a perspective where you realize how small you truly are and how big our world really is. And I think sometimes we just need to be reminded that the world doesn't revolve around us, and I think a canyon does that pretty well. One of the things we love to do whenever we go to a national park is to do the Junior Ranger program. We did the Junior Ranger program for Guadalupe, and the kids really enjoyed learning about the different kinds of animals, the different kinds of plants that are there, the geography, the history, the geology, all of those things. We homeschool, and so one of the best things about going to a national park is being able to incorporate it into our homeschool curriculum. We are learning about U.S. geography, U.S. history right now, and so it just kind of folds right into what we're learning. After McKittrick Canyon, we started driving south. The drive from Guadalupe to Big Bend National Park is about 4.5 to 5 hours or so. We actually had planned to stop in Marfa, Texas. And if you don't know about Marfa, Texas, you should Google Marfa. It's a very bizarre town, super weird. They have a Prada storefront in the middle of the desert. It's an art installation, which is awesome. They also have this thing called the Marfa lights where there's supposed to be like weird orbs in the sky that like move in weird patterns. They have a Target in the middle of the desert with just a fake storefront. It's an art installation. We were gonna stay in Marfa, but as we drove through, we discovered that COVID was pretty hot in that area, and we would have been around more people. We have been very intentional about, while we travel, avoiding contact with others, avoiding using resources that would put us in contact with others. And so Marfa was on the list of no's for us. So instead of stopping in Marfa, we decided to just drive all the way through. We arrived in Big Bend at about 9 o'clock after I scored us a campsite, which was difficult to do. So we went to bed. Everybody got into their hammocks, and we took care of taking the propane tanks out of the van and everything. And then the next morning we woke up and I cooked with a javelina. I got out of the van and I was getting ready to just make the coffee, start the coffee, and something grunted at me. It scared me so bad because it sounded like a bear, and there are bears in Big Bend, and I thought it was a bear. It was not a bear, it was a javelina, which is also a wild animal, and I like to respect the wildlife, and so I backed up. A javelina mama and a javelina baby were hanging out in our campsite whenever we woke up in the morning at Big Bend. It was so cool. It was so cool. So we cooked breakfast, and as soon as we got done with breakfast, cleaned everything up, and we had to move campsites. And so we didn't even leave anything at the campsite, put everything back into the van, and then took off to go hike. We started out hiking in Boquillas Canyon. Boquillas Canyon is right on the Mexican border. The Rio Grande runs through it. It was by far the most amazing canyon that I had ever been in. there was a gigantic like sand slide, just this big sand slide where sand had slid down like that. And we decided to climb it because there was a cave at the top. So we climbed it. I was very scared of a sand avalanche, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. After we did Boquillas Canyon, we drove out to find a junior ranger program because that's what we do. We found a junior ranger program. What I love about our national parks right now is that they are doing junior ranger programs, no contact. So basically you get your workbook and then you go do the things. You can bring it back and flip through the workbooks, and then they give you the badge. It's a great opportunity for our kids. We were able to continue our prioritizing no contact or minimal contact with others. And we always wore a mask whenever we were around others, all that stuff, because 2020. After we did the Junior Ranger program, we explored a little bit around the Chisos Mountains and then drove back to the campground where we found our new campsite. In the campground, they had this trail that led you, it was called the Nature Trail. And sometimes whenever you go to a campsite, a nature trail is kind of like, okay, that's cool. This nature trail was amazing. Good. It led you up into like a platform or what do they call it? A mesa. So you climbed up to the top of this platform and we watched the sunset and it was magical. The next day we went to another canyon, Santa Elena Canyon. The Santa Elena Canyon was a little bit more popular and it wasn't my favorite. I didn't like it as much. It was really cool, got some really cool pictures. But other than that, it was just kind of, there was too many people for me. The other places we went, we were able to not pass people in a close contact. And this one, it was a lot more difficult to pass people. So it wasn't my top, but it was pretty cool too. After we left Santa Elena, we did not have a campsite in the campground at the national park, and it was booked. They had a lot of their sites marked off so that they weren't at actual full capacity, but it says that they were at full capacity, so we did not have a site for that night. So we went on to Hip Camp, which is an app that we've used multiple times to find campsites and places. We went on to Hip Camp and found a campsite at this sustainable living place in the desert. It was probably, I think, about an hour and a half from where we were. So we were like, okay, that's good. That's awesome. Let's do it. So I book it on the way up there and then I lose signal. And as I'm reading the reviews for this, the reviews say you should get a text message with specific directions on how to get there because it will take you through the desert and some of the roads are impassable and it's dark. And specifically, as I'm reading these reviews that I don't have signal, I'm reading the reviews that I had downloaded, or it says, do not arrive after dark, which of course we were. So we're driving through the desert and I started singing, oh, I went through the desert on a road with no name, because it was literally a desert road with absolutely no name. I had no idea where we were. I was looking at these maps that were downloaded onto my phone, but I had no signal, and it kind of like the GPS had a little ping of where we were. And then I told Nick to turn onto a road. There was no road there. There was no road. Just drops into a canyon, because evidently in the desert, roads disappear. They just go somewhere. They go into the place where, I don't know, desert roads go. We finally made it though. We pull in, and it was this house that was made out of wine bottles and mud. And they had chickens and solar panels and literally eco-living. They were living off-grid in the middle of the desert. So we hop in the back, unstrap the hammocks, everybody gets in, and we sleep for the night. And then we get up, and the next morning, we find the person who owns this eco-living place, and we said, hey, what's the best way to get out of here? We came this way. Is there a different way? Because that wasn't awesome. And he was like, oh, you came that way? Ooh, yeah, you're supposed to go this way. So we went the way he told us. And then he said, just on this hill, make sure you stay on the right-hand side, because it's potholed. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Potholed in the desert means that it's covered by sliding sand, which if you've ever seen a horror movie with sinking sand in it, I mean, it causes a little bit of worry. But we made it. So as soon as we got out, we started driving towards the middle of Texas instead of West Texas, which is where we were. And it just starts pouring snow. Snow. I mean, inches and inches of snow in Texas. I think that probably Texans know that it does snow every once in a while in Texas, but I did not know it snowed in Texas. We learned a lot about how we are best going to function in the van as we continue to take it on camping trips and explore the United States with it. But this trip wasn't just walking through how we are best going to function or how efficiently we were going to function in the transit. We were able to experience a part of the country that I had never experienced before, and I didn't even really know it existed, to be honest. I thought that most of Texas was just big and flat. That was it. I didn't realize it was also mountainous and had coniferous forests, and there are a lot of places that I have not experienced yet, and I'm really excited to move forward and keep exploring and keep adventuring and doing it all with my family.